OpenAI has plunged 83%, triggering what analysts are calling the collapse of the AI boom.
This is the nightmare scenario, a hypothetical future where the promise of artificial intelligence fails to meet the huge price tag attached to it. But to see if this fiction could become fact, we have to look backward, because if you look at the financial plumbing of today, you might notice something terrifying. We have been here before.
America Online.
There has never been a better time to get online.
The easiest just got easier.
Instant messaging. It's my connection to the world.
To understand the risk, you have to understand the psychology of the flip. In the 90s, it was the Netscape IPO. That was the moment the market flipped from curiosity to mania. In our timeline, that moment was ChatGPT. In both eras, the immediate reaction was to build infrastructure. It became an arms race. In the late 90s, it was fiber optic cable. Today, it is data centers and GPUs. And the parallels between the companies powering these build-outs, they're striking. Consider Cisco in the year 2000. They were the plumbers of the internet. If you wanted to get online, you bought a router from Cisco. Today, that plumber is NVIDIA. And just as Cisco lent money to internet startups so they could buy Cisco equipment, NVIDIA is doing the exact same thing. Funneling cash into AI startups that, in turn, use that cash to buy NVIDIA chips. It's a circular economy, a snake eating its own tail. And when the Dotcom startups went bust, the circle broke. Cisco's stock value dropped by nearly 80%. It took them 30 years to match their Dotcom peak. However, if you look at the raw numbers, the story gets more complex. Since the Dotcom, the global market cap, the total value of all stocks, has exploded from roughly $33 trillion to $159 trillion. But the actual number of listed companies, it has only grown by about 20%. Think of the stock market like a city map. In the year 2000, the market was a suburb, thousands of small, single-story .com buildings spread out as far as the eye could see. The value was wide, but it was shallow. Today, the limits haven't expanded much. The number of plots of land, the listed companies, is roughly the same. But the skyline has changed. We stopped building out and we started building up. The .com bubble was fragmented across thousands of smaller, high-flying firms. The AI bubble is top-heavy. It is concentrated in the Magnificent Seven. And this brings us to the most critical distinction between 2000 and today, the one thing that might save us. In 2000, the market crashed because the underlying companies were largely worthless. They had no revenue, they had no product, they had eyeballs. Can we get people to look at the screen? Today, the companies driving the AI bubble are some of the most profitable entities in human history. They print money. But even if they are profitable, they are expensive. The US market is historically high. The Buffett indicator.
Okay, so to make things clear, my indicator shows the ratio of the total stock market value to GDP. Now you know. Enjoy the rest of this video.
Is sitting at over 200%. At the peak of the .com bubble, it was only 140%. So why hasn't it popped? Because these valuations are being propped up by a new structural force, a machine that did not exist 20 years ago. Passive ownership. 40 to 45% of all equities are now owned by ETFs and index funds. When you put money in your 401k, an algorithm buys the S&P 500. It doesn't ask, is Nvidia overpriced? It doesn't care. It just buys. This feedback loop creates a mechanic that did not exist in 2000. Furthermore, the risk is hiding in a different place. In the .com era, there was a lack of regulations, which meant companies went public with zero revenue and a rough business plan. They passed the bag of risk on to you, the retail investor buying stocks to inflate their value. Today, the window for IPOs is much more narrow, so the potential fallout is currently contained within private markets and the balance sheets of big tech. But financial engineering only works if the technology actually does something, if the hype can survive reality. Critics love to cite Amara's law, that we overestimate technology in the short run and underestimate it in the long run. They say AI is the new pets.com, but unlike the sock puppet, AI is already deeply embedded in the economy. CEO of Google recently revealed that 25% of all new code at Google is now generated by AI. According to McKinsey, 78% of organizations have adopted AI in at least one function. Our Veridion data shows that in 2025, AI adoption in non-tech industries was 4 times higher than the previous 4 years combined. Also, a recent survey of small businesses found that 91% of those using AI reported revenue growth compared to a much flatter line for non-users. Why? Because for a 3-person company, AI isn't a tool. It's a 4th employee that works for $20 a month. So, if we have technology that works, AI adoption growing, and small businesses becoming more profitable, where's the risk? The risk today is not a sudden explosion, it is a suffocation. The current valuations of AI companies demand insane growth. For Nvidia to justify its price today, for OpenAI to survive its burn rate tomorrow, they need the world's GDP to grow at 3.5 to 4.5% per year for a decade. That hardly happens. The danger lies in that circular trillion-dollar cash flow we talked about. Microsoft pays OpenAI, OpenAI pays Nvidia, Nvidia invests in OpenAI and cloud providers. If user adoption doesn't cross the chasm, if it doesn't generate hundreds of billions in new value to justify the capital expenditure, the music stops. But unlike 2000, if the bubble bursts, the lights won't go out. The companies involved, Google, Microsoft, Meta, have balance sheets strong enough to absorb the blow. They aren't going to zero. Consequently, the most likely negative outcome isn't a crash, it's a dry down, a long, slow period of stagnation where valuations slowly bleed out as they fail to meet the astronomical expectations priced into them. 2000 isn't repeating itself, but it is echoing. The fiber optic cables laid during the Dotcom mania, they were a financial disaster. 90% of them went dark, but they were not wasted. They provided the cheap, massive infrastructure that allowed the modern internet, YouTube, Netflix, Facebook to thrive 20 years later. Similarly, the massive data centers being built today may seem like financial overreach now, but just as the storms and fires of the dot-com crash cleared the brush during the internet age, this current infrastructure build-out is laying the physical foundation for the next era, for general intelligence and physically embodied AI. The bubble might deflate, the stock market might correct, but that is just the fee we pay for progress. We have effectively tricked the financial markets into funding the next stage of human evolution. Big tech paid the bill, but the future has been paid for the next decade.